Hey guys, how's it going? Coach Adan here.
And Coach Haley.
This is actually our first episode of the Primitive Movement Podcast, the Primitive Movement Pod. With that being said, this first episode is going to be a little bit different. One, my voice is slowly coming back, so forgive me and be graceful for that, right? But it'll be a little bit different because Coach Haley's going to be over here interviewing myself. It's going to be a two-part value for you guys. It gives Haley value because it's a project she has to go ahead and do for school. So we want to make sure we can help her out with that. But next thing also is our goal has always been to provide value for you guys. And a large part of what that is, right, is obviously results and being in this family and this culture, but also that education. So we're going to go ahead and break down a lot of things that, have our detail for the gym, but also our detail for myself. And hopefully you guys get something out of it, learn something new, and can adapt that into your lives. And without further ado, I'll have Haley introduce me.
All right, so just to kind of get it started, I just want you to introduce your full name, your title, years of experience, and location of work.
Okay, my full name is Adan Martinez. What was the next question? Title. Here you go. My title, I would call myself, I always like what Martin Rooney has to say as far as being in the health and wellness space. Martin Rooney is a coach. He's a physical therapist as well, a DPT. He's well-renowned in the space for helping individuals kind of build their own business and take care of their clientele and start from the ground up. Very motivational, very knowledgeable individual. And he likes the title coach the best. And I think I got that also from Mike. Mike Zakarian, he's actually the first individual that I worked for over at Fit Body Bootcamp, Mike and Marlene, so it's pretty cool to kind of meet Martin Rooney through them and kind of see their philosophy and see Martin's philosophy and kind of meet with him and talk with him and be at a seminar with him, so that's pretty cool. But I like the label of coach because it gives you, in my opinion, a bigger responsibility and a bigger representation as far as what we do. We're not just a trainer. A coach is somebody that you lean on, that gives you life advice, that can go ahead and help you complete what we call the circle of life, right? Training, health and wellness, and fitness are a multifaceted approach, right? It should be a multifaceted approach. And I think being a coach is someone who can help, again, push the boundary in more ways than you just coming into a gym and moving the body, right? I want to say I'm a coach. Sorry.
And location of work? My
location of work is Primitive Movement at Swole AF Gym. I am a coach, an owner, and operator right here of this gym.
So you said you're an owner. So as an owner, I just kind of want you to describe your typical day on the job, being a coach, what it looks like from the morning up until, you head home till the next day.
A typical day. Mm-hmm. I can give you a multifaceted answer, a different approach to this answer. One, as a trainer or as a coach, right? You obviously have the responsibilities of a trainer and a coach. If members have questions about diet, nutrition, biomechanics, the program, the results, the next phase of things, you have to be able to go ahead and focus on that, right? And make sure you can pull clients aside and do that for them. So you have that on one end. Apologies. Next thing with that is obviously being knowledgeable enough to actually take them through a program, right? So being able to do that is very, very important. So the knowledge and base there. I also am a massage therapist, licensed in California. So I don't do that as often now. I try to go ahead and pass that off to my team. Luckily, we have an amazing team now that can go ahead and do fulfill these different roles, including massage therapy. But with that, also being able to answer those questions and those needs, right? And see, okay, what does this person need, right? And obviously be knowledgeable and capable of being able to actually do a massage, right? And what does that include? Us being a gym, it's not always relaxation type stuff. It's not just Swedish, but it's also the recovery portion. Somebody has an ache, a pain, an injury, being able to go ahead and do that, right? So you have those two different things. Now on the business end is being able to run a business, right? The things that keep things going. You walking into the gym every single day and making sure things are put away and things are clean. That's a big thing that people don't understand. Is making sure nothing's broken, right? Making sure the things that are broken at least are sealed off, or people can work their way around it and find a solution to it, even though they came in expecting to use something in the gym, right? So all these different things are essentially your responsibility. Making sure your team is up to date and understands what's going on. Make sure you're communicating well. and they're on task, but also making sure you're above that task, so you know what's the next step, right? And because you're pushing that boundary and you're setting that up for everybody else, so you better be set up multiple steps ahead to make sure everything's running smoothly. On top of that, putting out fires, right? And fires are going to happen every single day, and they're going to happen constantly, and it's kind of a large part of what the job is. And I think Bedros Keuilian said it best when he said, being an entrepreneur and being a business owner is a lot like jumping out of a plane, or out of a plane to go skydiving without a parachute while you're on fire. You're trying to figure out how to put the fire out and build your own parachute before you land. That's probably the biggest thing I can relate it to, is you're never going to have everything figured out. You're never going to have the solution for everything. But as long as you have the willingness, as long as you know where to look, as long as you have the right people around you, you'll always figure it out. So as far as how does my day look like, it looks like a little bit like you're on fire, a little bit like you have things under control, a little bit like you have people around you that hopefully you can communicate with, you can trust, you can build a team around, and you can, obviously serve your family, in this case, our member base.
Can you kind of describe or divide your day in like percentage of how much are you on the floor training, how much time are you doing massage therapy, and how much time are you working on the business side of it?
That's a great question. As of recently, that's changed. I would say ideally you want a business setup where you have, obviously, you can focus on that next task at hand, that next phase, and you can build that thing out, right? With that being said, we do have a high standard at this gym, right? So we want to make sure, again, who's ever in front of a member for a service is the most capable option, is the most knowledgeable option. They know how to take care of that individual. If they don't know how to take care of an individual, well, that's probably my mistake. I got to go ahead and fix that, correct that, educate the individual, bring them up to speed, and make sure they're capable and confident to go ahead and provide the service appropriately, right? So up until recently, a lot of it was still me doing kind of group training classes, still running some one-on-one sessions, and then you don't have any time off until 8:30, 9 p.m. when finally last trainer walks out, and then you can start working on the business side of things, right? That midday is usually caught up with calls, people, needing things, fires happening, having to put them out, right? So that's kind of how the day's been looking. Now, as of recently, it's more so, okay, cool, we have a team that's established, they're capable, kind of making sure they have what they need, continue to pour into them, and now using that time to go ahead and try to increase the size of our family. Our goal is to impact a large amount of people in this community right here where we're located. So the goal has always been to, if you can impact one family, one husband or one wife in a home, who are they connected with, right? They're connected with their entire family, with their friend group, with their work group, who's around them, right? So you impact one person, you actually positively impact closer to 8 to 10 people, right? Because the people around them are going to start making slow changes. Maybe they might be slow to adapt, but they'll start making slow changes, right? And that's the most important thing, is make sure you impact that community and help them grow in health and wellness and fitness. But my day normally looks more or less now, I guess like that, how I explained it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, awesome. And then now I'm just gonna talk more about, your job as a gym owner, or all that, and what schooling is required for that. And if there isn't necessarily, quote unquote, something required, what schooling do you have?
So, compared to where I am at, what schooling is required to get to this point, essentially?
Yes.
As
a gym owner.
As a gym owner?
Yes.
I know I have a lot of friends who own gyms that don't have necessarily what you would consider the normal, right, education, as far as going to school, getting a bachelor's, getting a master's or a doctorate or any graduate degree. Main thing is going to be that willingness, right? As long as you're willing, as long as you're going out there, understanding where you're weak, challenging yourself each and every day, right? I always say it, you got to kill that ego constantly, right? You have to have a strong ego, but you got to be willing to kill it over and over again. What I mean by that is you don't know everything. You're not the most capable person, right? So with that being said, are you willing to go ahead and accept that each and every day and grow and develop and find out, okay, what's missing? So as far as education for me, what I've done, I can give you that answer, right? And I've seen other people that have done it something, a different way, and gone more the therapeutic route and built a gym, gone more the kines route and built a gym, and the member base kind of shows their experience, right? But for me, I had my degree in kinesiology, exercise sports science. So that's my main emphasis. And with that, I got my certification for training from ACE, Academy of American Council on Exercise. And then obviously I'm, licensed massage therapist. So I've been able to blend those three. The bulk of my experience has been about 5 years early on with physical therapy. So being in rehab and physical therapy, I think that's what kind of helped shape everything that we do now. I was an athlete for 7, almost 8 years prior to that, right, competing. So that's kind of where I got my applicable experience of how things work, how the body works, how physiological changes happen, right? The adaptations that occur to stress, which is training and movement, and how to make sure those adaptations to stress happen safely and happen more optimally and quickly, right? So that's very, very important. But as long as you have applicable experience and actually doing the thing yourself, if you're trying to help somebody with weight loss, with muscle building, strength building, whatever the case, that helps a ton because it forces you to solve problems, right? And that's where in the industry of solving problems. Someone comes to us because they don't know how to lose weight. They don't know how to stay on track. They don't know how to be accountable. They don't know how to do X, Y, Z, right? So as long as you understand how to solve that problem within yourself and know how to apply it in multiple different ways, that's going to help you solve more things on a broader spectrum of individuals, right? So from that, a bachelor's will help, a training certification will help. Any extra certifications on top of that will help. I have individuals that are just massage therapists, and I go out and get extra things like cupping certified, Graston certified, washout, whatever the case, right? Those things do help. But the main thing is, are you willing? And the people that I've seen, even now, time and time again, that I'm meeting, that are doing it at the highest level, they're willing to do whatever it takes. And they might not have the solution. They might not have the education that I know some other people have. And that's okay, right? Are you willing to go ahead and figure it out? Are you willing to go ahead and educate yourself? Are you willing to go ahead and open the textbook, go out, read the articles, and do the work outside of that? Because even if you do have the education, it doesn't verify anything. It's not necessarily a form of validity, right? Because we all know individuals that have some form of education, but they still don't apply it well. So as long as you're willing, I think that's the most important thing, if that answers your question.
So you kind of touched on like programs or degrees that you would recommend for someone to earn or get. What are some programs you would maybe avoid in your experience or opinion?
As far as recommendation, I think for recommendation, if you're looking at building, say, your business or building yourself in the health and wellness space, right? If you want to build X, Y, Z way, if you want to build more into being a hands-on practitioner, right? Somebody who, maybe you're a trainer, but you want to be able to go ahead and also work on your clients, right? Through tissue work. You can't do that if you don't have some kind of license to touch, being a physical therapist, chiropractor, or massage therapist, right? So if you want to be a trainer, you want to go ahead and make sure you can have the liability coverage of being able to go ahead and put your hands on somebody without it being an issue, right? Without potentially being sued, right? And being covered and being insured, you would have to go that route. So that's one recommendation I would have, is at least getting a massage therapy certification. That'll be the easiest route to go and do that, right? It's the simplest and the shortest, but it still obviously requires a lot of education and application because you're working with tissue, and it's very easy to work on tissue and to potentially cause harm. So always making sure you're keeping front of mind and you're getting hundreds of hours in of practice. But things that I would avoid anything that doesn't have an accredited test or examination. I've seen a lot of certifications that are out now, coming out now, that are very easy to get, right? So things that don't require you to be at a testing center or don't require you to be in front of a proctor, I would probably avoid those things,
okay, right?
So more so I would look at that. I would look at who the individual in question is, who's making the course, who's building the assessments. Someone that I actually love, so actually this goes against what I just said, but also kind of you have to look at the lines in between and see what actually works. Sebastian Oreb is the renowned known strength coach, right? For training Hafthor Bjornsson and a few other strong elite powerlifters and strongmen. So for him, he has his strength system certification, right? Entirely built on obviously building strength. He has 3 different levels. On his, you're actually not required to be in front of a proctor. You're not required to go ahead and schedule an exam date, right? But if you look at all of his material, and if you look at everything he has going on, and the actual requirements of what it is to get to each level of that process, of that certification, there is still kind of a stringent process. He does require 100% right on each and everything, and he does go into depth as far as the research that he's done to accumulate his knowledge. So you can see that, right? But things that aren't as detailed from an individual, right? As far as you can see passion, you can see knowledge, right? These are things that we just know. You can feel it when someone talks about something. You can feel that they know it, right? And you can see that they're not so hard-lined on something, right? So I'm going to be going into a certification for something and I see that someone's more so hard-lined, this is the only way it is. No. The human body is a malleable piece of equipment, right? Someone can come in and be dealing with XYZ injury or whatever the case, and our goal is to find a solution around what's going on. Someone else, let's say it's person A, person B, can come and have the same exact symptoms and issue in the same area, but respond entirely different. I can't be hardline and treat person B the exact way I treated person A if I'm not seeing the same result, right? So I would look at those two things as far as finding a certification is, one, are they requiring a proctor or examination? And sometimes if they're not, right, do I trust this individual? And am I doing my research and my diligence to go ahead and get into that individual and see, okay, cool. Like I see where he's coming from. It all makes sense. It's all backed by research still, and I can trust it. But if that's the case, normally I would still stack something. That's something that's stacked on top of, right? So meaning I'm going to go ahead and still get my kinesis degree. I'm going to get my ACE or my NASM on first, and I will stack that individual's knowledge on top of that, because those are usually ancillary things. Right, Sebastian, or even that's an ancillary way to go ahead and build more strength. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, it's great. Okay, my next question is, are there internships available for your position? And if so, what do you recommend?
Internships, as far as like, do we have interns here?
I guess
as
in your position, like in the field, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of gyms that, they have interns come in from different capacities, right? So they'll come in for, I know a lot of wellness gyms that do physical therapy as well, right? And they kind of bring people in on that side. And so an intern will come in on the therapy side, and they'll do that where they'll be working with the therapist, but also be working with some of the trainers and staff on there to go ahead and help patients and clients flow back and forth, right? So we'll have that. If not, as far as if we offer internships here, we've actually been looking at, that being an option of offering, interns to come out in here, right? I've actually been talking to a couple of individuals to go ahead and see if we can make that happen and how that makes sense. Which actually would be pretty cool to give people that are in school right now the hands-on, cool, I'm in school, I'm learning this, I'm seeing how many different ways I can do it. Maybe I want to do 100 hours here, 100 hours there, 50 hours here, and kind of see what's going on over here. That would be a cool thing. But as far as are there internships in the field? Absolutely,
What about for let's say someone comes in and he comes up to you, or he or she comes up to you and says, one day I want to own a gym. Can I shadow you or be your intern for X amount of time?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. For me, it's again going back to willingness. I've had a lot of people since I've been in the field. I've been in the field. I've owned my business for almost 6 years now. I've been in the health and wellness space for over 12 years now. But being in this at the last gym where I was subleasing at, where I actually started Primitive Movement. This is at Infinite Training Systems. Badges, BJ. He's a great man, great mentor, very knowledgeable individual. Helped me out with a lot of different things growing into the field. But with that, as I was growing into the field, and I kind of was already getting my bearings, and I was seeing success, and I was growing, we had other people doing the same thing coming into the field. So I took it upon myself, if they had questions, hey, if you want to go ahead and schedule some time, let's go ahead and make sure you're set up, how your systems look. How does your, do you have an LLC, or what are you using as a sole prop, right? Do you have any insurance for your training business? How do your contracts look, right? How are you taking payment? All these different things, right? How does a system look to the eval process of a person walking in and seeing you for the first time? How does that evaluation process look like? How do you go ahead and build programs? All these different things, right? So I would take it upon myself to do all this. Now, even though I'm giving the time and open to it, it takes the individual to be willing to come in and actually receive that. Right? Mm-hmm. So I'm always willing, I'm always open for those things, and even now I still do a lot of that. A lot of what I do is still that too with people, but you have to be willing And now that I've been in here for over 5, we're going on 6 years soon, I've learned to be not as sparing with my time, where I have to see a lot more willingness up front. So I'll be dropping just nuggets. Like, just try this, right? One, to not overwhelm the individual, because there is a lot, right? Next thing is also, I need to make sure that you're willing to do at least this before I commit more time to you. Because I just don't have time for it. I want to make sure I respect my time, but I'm also respecting your time. I'm also respecting the process that you have to go ahead and undertake to make sure you're willing to do what's needed to go ahead and grow this. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. Awesome. Okay, my next question is, what do you enjoy most about your job? And describe your best day at work.
Oh, geez.
I know.
This is a great question, and I don't even know how to keep this one short. I don't know if I don't enjoy any of it, honestly. So it takes a different individual to be a business owner, right? One, because you're working 7 days a week, especially at the phase of the business is in right now. I'm working every day. And then my shortest days maybe 10, 11 hours. So maybe, right? With that, I laugh because I enjoy every single part of that process. But also with that, there are definitely times where you're just frustrated to hell and high heaven and you don't want to deal with a task. And you're just like, oh, I got to deal with this, and then I have this going on, and now this happened, and now somebody just walked in and we're getting a phone call, or I got to get back to that email. And there's just so many different things going on. But the whole process, I think a lot of times business owners are built for chaos. So the chaos feels very comfortable, right? Where you feel like, okay, cool. I'm comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. And when there's a lack of chaos and when things kind of lighten up a little bit, I kind of almost look for more. Because I'm like, we could do more right now. Or I finally have some time. But as far as is there anything that I don't like about my job, as far as the question, I don't know if there's anything I don't like. The one thing I don't like is when I want to do more of the program building and more of getting that next phase set up and things go wrong or things break, or now we have this issue we have to fix. That's what I don't like as much.
So? Like, what's an example of that?
Yeah, a piece of equipment goes out, let's say, right? Like we have the GHD that's out right now. Right? We've had, different things that will kind of just go out or break. Oh. And you have to go ahead and take care of it, right? Or even building into the next phase is different because we're adding things to the private gym now, as you've seen, right? So for those of you coming into the private gym, you guys go ahead and see those changes, right? If you've been to the private gym before. But with that, building to the next phase is different because it's exciting to go ahead and be able to offer those things and see your baby grow, and then go ahead and see how people are appreciating it and utilizing it. But when things go wrong and just break, and it's just like, well, that's time away from the members, time away from a conversation, time away from a phone call, time away from being able to schedule someone to come in to go ahead and solve an issue. So I don't like that job, or that part. But on the other hand, it's kind of devil's advocate. I do like being able to fix things. And now as a business owner, I don't do that nearly as much. I'm someone who grew up fixing, working on my own cars, building bikes, fixing bikes, working, doing home improvement stuff, right? From drywall to, electrical to framing to a little bit of roofing. My dad was a roofer for 40 years, so my dad and my brothers are the roofers. All that cement work. So I grew up doing those things, and I love doing those things. And I love being able to tear half my engine apart, clean it up, fix it up, replace whatever, and then put it back together. So all those things I still enjoy. So owning a business kind of satisfies those things as well, because I get to go ahead and still fix things. I obviously can't work on my car as much as I would love to, right? And kind of add things to it or just work on it myself and just have to now take it to areas sometimes to get things like maintenance done, which isn't as fun, but the gym kind of helps satisfy even in that regard. So as far as enjoyment, I don't know if I don't not enjoy it or if I lack enjoyment in anything. But I think the most enjoyable parts, even on top of all that, that's more just like intrinsic for myself. But as far as like with the team, there's every single part that I enjoy about it. I enjoy being able to communicate with individuals, to be able to help individuals grow, to see where there's gaps. And obviously, you learn over the years of now being here for 6+ years and 12+ years in the field overall, you see where there's gaps. And it's very easy. It's blatant, right? And it took me a while to understand and be like, oh, they really don't see this. And I'm like, okay, I have to have this conversation, right? It's like it's an easy fix. And I always say we're one conversation away from solving just about anything, right? And your success in anything in life is predicated off of how many tough conversations you're willing to have, right, guys? So make sure you're having those tough conversations. But with that being said, being able to be with a team, unite, kind of build things together, get ideas together, give your 2 cents, have them give their 2 cents, and see kind of how it develops, because you have your own idea in your head, and you see maybe A, B, and C, but you don't see D and E, right? So being able to bring all those things together is very, very exciting, very, very fun. Seeing how everybody gets excited to come in and make that happen. And like I was saying, we're very tribal and communal, right? We don't do this on our own. Nothing in life should be really done on your own. And because of how I believe systems are built a lot of times, people get stuck doing things on their own, right? And they just get used to it. Sense of individualism. With that being said, fitness is not one of those things. I say that pretty often in class. Fitness is not something that you do on your own. You don't have to, right? Even coaches have coaches. Even we lean on each other. Even we ask each other questions. Even we're always learning from other people. Your coach is also learning from somebody else, because guess what? They care about their body and their health and well-being, and that only helps, the well-being of our members. So I think being able to do that as a team is probably the most exciting part, as far as being, an enjoyable part as far as being on a team. If that answers the question.
So maybe the only thing you really don't enjoy about being a gym owner and a coach is if you have to get pulled away from being in front of people.
Being away from people,
okay.
Honestly. Yeah.
Got it.
Because even that's a bittersweet thing of even having trainers that are, we have a very capable team right now, and I love my team, and it's absolutely amazing. But even with that, there is a bittersweetness to not being the person that's in front of the member or the client. And it's like, oh man, I really miss, that interaction, that energy that you share back and forth. But then also, it's an opportunity for somebody else to go ahead and help grow, right? And they're growing, and then the team is still growing. But it's also, you have to keep front of mind, which is the tough part a lot of times, at least for myself. Front of mind, there is the next phase. And the next phase means that everybody's going to grow more, right? And so keeping that front of mind, yeah.
And then, okay, so my next question is, it's only if you don't mind sharing. You don't have to share.
Uh-oh.
But the question is, what is the starting salary for your position?
Starting salary for my position? Mm-hmm. For being a gym owner?
Yes.
Oh, man. That's a varied question. I actually like this question. So that's a varied question. It depends on how big the gym is. It depends on, obviously, member-based services added, products offered. It depends on so many different things to say there's a starting, like you're saying, starting salary.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there's a starting salary. I can give you guys a few different, I guess, a bit of shine some light on this. As a trainer, and there's also by location, right? As a trainer, say here in Southern California, if you're doing private, I've seen trainers on low end make about 50 to 60. Let's call that 55K. And that only goes up from there. It only goes up from there as far as value, as far as services provided, as far as your willingness to add clients, how available your schedule is, all that, and allows you to increase your rate, the things that you offer, right? So it's dependent, I can tell you at the highest, when I was a trainer independently, I made just shy of $200,000 in a year, right? Now as a business owner, me having a gym, it's different. Now you have so many other facets to go ahead and fulfill. You have so many other roles and hats to go ahead and make sure you wear, but also you're passing off as things develop. But most businesses, especially in fitness, from what we're noticing, it takes about 3 to 5 years to develop. So if you're not willing to work for 3 to 5 years, especially as you grow and build foundation before you can start vertically really scaling up, if you're not willing to basically not make any money for 3 to 5 years, then it's probably not the route for you, right? Mm-hmm. But if you want to be, a sole proprietor, if you want to be an individual that's just like your sole business, you can rent out of a space. You don't have to go ahead and be the person that's taking care of the space, say a gym. You could be a trainer within that space, a massage therapist in that space, a physical therapist in that space, a chiropractor in that space. It's not your space entirely, but you have a room or you have a segment or you rent the gym, right? If you're willing to do that, you'll see profit a lot quicker, right? And as long as you can market yourself, within 6 months, there's no reason why you shouldn't be seeing profit, right? And be able to cover rent and obviously seeing some cash flow come in. But as far as you having a physical space, if you're growing it, and depending on how aggressive you are, we have a lot to offer here at the gym, right? Depending on what you're offering and what you're doing, there's a lot of things to scale. You should probably expect to not see too much in the green for 3 to 5 years. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, we're gonna move past the salary now. And my next question is, if you were going to do college all over again, what classes do you think would be the most important to be a gym owner to take?
What class?
Yeah. Either ones you did take or ones you wish I would have wanted to take that class.
Okay. So this is a good question. The reason why I love it the way I'm looking at it is when I was 4 or 5 years old, I knew I wanted to own a business. I didn't want to work for somebody. So that was different. With that, I didn't know it was going to be a gym. As I got older, I knew it was going to be health and fitness. I knew I loved health and fitness. And I was like, okay, this seems the most natural. There was other things that I would say I had a higher passion for. I still have a passion for health and fitness. Other things that I had a higher passion for, but I was like, what's the thing that's going to help me monetize quicker that I can go ahead and start selling now and doing now? And I also want to serve and impact people. And that became health and fitness, right? Health, fitness, and wellness. With that, what would I add to a curriculum in retrospect? So if I'm looking at someone who's not thinking like from a young age, they want to go ahead and already own a business, right? Someone that in retrospect wants to add to a curriculum, I would say any business courses for sure.
Okay.
I don't think we have any business courses for anything as far as in kinesiology. So I think that's just across the board, what you should do for any field, just about any study in, the university level or a collegiate level, is going and having some business sense and business knowledge, financial sense, knowing how to manage right, what's coming in, what's coming out, how to invest it, what investments mean, what liabilities are, right? All these different things are very, very important. I think across the board, that's just good to have, right, for each and everybody. Not necessarily just being in business, right? But I heard a quote years ago, and it said, if you can run your family like a business, then your family will be very successful. Or your family will be very, very fruitful. You provide a lot for them, right? And that always stuck with me. And the reason why that is, when you break down what that means, right, is what does a business need to run each and every day? We talked about you come in, it has to be well maintained and well kept. You have to have the equipment. In this case, our equipment has to be, tip top, workable for people to come in and utilize it. Your employees have to know exactly what's going on, communicate with them, write things down for them. Everybody has to be educated, capable, and that's your responsibility. If they're not, okay, how do we go ahead and make this happen? How do we improve this model, right? What do they need? What's lacking? What's lacking within myself? Maybe I have to change X, Y, Z, and improve that. That way I can make sure I can even demonstrate it or show it to my team, right? And the same thing with the family, right? Is if you're married and you have kids, the way I look at it, right? I don't have kids or I'm married yet, but the way I look at it is, if I have kids, are they confidently failing? Am I getting on them after every single failure and saying, it's not good enough, you're not good enough? That's not appropriate. I'm building confidence. But am I building an environment that makes them confident to go out there and try the thing over and over again and fall? And go out there and do it again. I say it's okay to fail as long as you're willing and you get up and you try again. Are they capable of doing that? Do they feel that they're progressing? If not, what education do I have to provide, in this case as a father, right, to my kids to go ahead and make sure I can make that happen, right? Do they have the basic resources, right? Shelter, food, water, the whole nine, right? But with that, as far as what I would add to a curriculum, as far as business, right, would be all those things. Is the basics of, can you manage a business, back end and front end? Can you communicate? Interpersonal skills are very, very important, right? Is being able to go ahead and take a client through. A lot of times we have people that come in for massage therapy, and they're scared or nervous about the pressure, the pain they're going to feel. Letting them know, again, because you're communicating well with them, hey, this isn't going to feel like this, but I promise you after about 30 seconds, we're going to go ahead and move on from this area. The tissue's just really bound up. What's happening right here with the myofascial tissue actually in this area, and you educate them. And let them know the nerves over here are also going to be very, very overstimulated because of XYZ. right? And this isn't a benefit, but I have to go ahead and do this type of work right now. And we're going to go into a different technique that's going to help, kind of butter it up and loosen it up and feel better after. But if you're just not communicating that, and you just go in there and you just start beating it up and they're just in pain, they have no idea what the purpose of that pain is or why it's benefiting them, right? So interpersonal communication, business front and back end, and any financial classes would be good.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, for college courses, you would have wanted to take some of those classes, and
that'll be
you
good.
suggest that for everyone else?
For everybody, not even
Got
just,
it.
for everybody. Because everybody always benefits from better communication too.
And what would you suggest for a college student that wants to go into the career of being a gym owner?
A college student that wants to go into the career of being a gym owner. I think Alex Hormozi says it best. He says, whatever you think it's going to take 10 times more. It's going to take 10 times longer. It's going to be 10 times harder. So I would advise them, and I would lead with that and say whatever you're picturing in your head, right? A lot of times people think like, I'm going to own a business and I'm going to make a lot of money and I'm going to do this, that, and the other. Okay, fantastic. But if you're going into business for making money, right? Maybe that's enough of an extrinsic motivator. Maybe it is, right? But a lot of times, are you willing to help somebody? Right? Is your service or product going to be something that's beneficial? Is it marketable? Is it valuable? Does the market value it? So I would look at those things first. Is what impact do you want to have on the market? What is the purpose of your business? What are you providing? What are you going to be providing? And are you willing? Are you willing to kill your ego over and over again and understand that it's for the betterment, right? Are willing to put things aside to make sure that your business and everything else that's part of it as a whole is coming up rather than you, right? So all these different things is probably what I would advise them from.
Awesome. Okay. And then my next question, it's a little more simpler. It's just your suggestion on what someone should wear to an interview or their first day at the job, which is kind of different because I know as a gym owner you don't really need an interview, but I guess for a trainer or a coach.
First day on the job, let's start there. I like fresh black. So black top, black shorts, black pants, whatever the case, right? And then white shoes, right? I just think it looks crisp, looks clean, presentable, right? And it makes everybody look uniform, and you really stand out from the members, right? So people know that's a coach. Obviously, you wear something that has logos and says coach on it. Obviously, that helps too. First interview, I think across the board, any interview, be as sharply dressed as possible. Show up suited and booted, if you can, and just obviously, come off in your best clothing. That's what I would say. Yeah, be presentable, be ready, to shine essentially and show somebody for the first interaction with them, right? Kind of what you're about.
Next question. What surprised you the most about your career? And what's something you wish you knew before, I guess, you opened the gym?
I did a lot of research before doing what I'm doing. So I knew what to expect.
So you knew what you were getting yourself into, basically.
Yeah. I knew exactly what to expect. I knew it wasn't going to be hard. I knew it wasn't going to be challenging. I knew I had to work incredibly hard. I knew I had to put a lot of my personal things aside to go ahead and make this happen, right? Because now I'm leading a member base, I'm leading a team, and that comes first, right? That has to get done. Otherwise, nothing gets done, right? So I knew those things. So as far as that, I would say there's no real surprises. I would say there's been moments, every few months maybe is one big one, right? But there are moments when you, again, not just going back to what research I've already done anyway, things that I've already seen from other people that are already doing it or having done it at a more grandiose scale or just for longer, right? There's moments where you realize like, oh, this is what hard is, right? And it's like, people will tell you like, oh, that's gonna be hard, that's gonna be challenging. And it's like, yeah, you hear that, but it's like, no, like when you hit hard, you realize like, oh, this is what hard is. And this is where people quit. And you get to those moments every 3 to 6 months, you probably have like a big one. But it's more of like a realization, more like a reminder, right? Oh, you are doing a lot. You're really undertaking a big task, right? You asked for this. This is you, this is what you wanted. So it's more so just that as the realization kind of hits you, a few times a year of like, this is hard. This is what hard actually is. And so I think being able to research it, even though I knew kind of what to expect and I was doing all these different things and I wasn't really surprised about a lot of things, every now and then it'll hit you like, oh, it reminds you, like that's kind of rough. And you kind of just roll with the punches and just keep going, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it basically sounds more of just like, in terms of talking about owning a gym, it's like a choice.
It's a choice.
So
every single day is a choice. Yeah.
I guess that's what people should know if they want to become a gym owner, to make that choice of like, this is, like you said, knowing what you're going to get yourself into.
And that's not even just in owning a gym and owning anything and being the operator for anything and being the person of contact for anything. Parents probably know this more than anybody else, you know, especially when you have newborns, right? I see my family, my brothers with their kids, right? It's like they're sleeping 2-3 hours a night. I see my business partners, right? Sleeping 2-3 hours a night. Sometimes coming in the next day, it's like, you have a newborn, right? And they gotta go out there and still just do it, right? So a lot of it's a combination of that just for years, right? Is when things happen, you're the point of reference, you're the point of contact, you're the one that has to go ahead and correct the issue. So I think when you're undertaking any massive goal, not just being an owner of, in this case, a gym or an owner of anything, when you're undertaking a goal in a career or anything for that matter, right? Even for an athlete, how long do athletes train in a day when they're trying to go, you know, be a world champ, right? They're probably spending 5 hours, of some type of movement a day. 3 to 5 hours on top of that on recovery each day. And on top of that, they're meeting with their team and breaking down, film, right, game plan, all those different things. So it's still a 10 to 12 hour day, right? I mean, you're taking, and then that's the physical toll on top of that, right? So anything that you want to go ahead and, do at a high level, it's just going to take a lot.
So kind of based on everything you've said, it just sounds like I think people have this idea of like what it will look like to own a business. And I kind of want you to touch on the main misconceptions or myths about owning a gym that people have, and if it's true or not.
Number one is, again, this is the phase that Primitive Movement's in. Primitive Movement will be entering year number 4 next month in January, actually. So congrats to that. Primitive Movement Gym, at least. The main misconception is you're at the gym all day, you train all day. You're working out, right? You're the fittest person.
Oh.
It's like, no, you're not, right? So that's probably the number one, right? It's like, oh, you're doing, you have everything around you. It's like, that's not how it works. It's like things have to get done, right? You don't get to work until there's not work hours. And, again, we have a group side and we have a private training side, right? And that's an open gym. So with the group side, last client, they stick around, they talk, they ask you questions. Maybe they're out here by 8:30 p.m. I'll walk to the private training side a lot of times, and a lot of times they ask me questions there. A lot of times things are going wrong over there. I gotta fix things, set things up, move things around, right? So by the time the day is over, it's looking like 9:30, 10 p.m. later. You still gotta get back to your computer sometimes to go ahead and finish some things up, right? And on top of that, you gotta be here the next day maybe because you gotta train maybe the 5 a.m. Or when you bring a new trainer on, you gotta make sure they're on board. You gotta make sure you train them at 5 a.m. So by the time you get home, it's looking closer to 11:30. You still gotta make sure you eat, maybe get some rest, get ready for the next day, right? So the biggest misconception I would say is, oh, you're training all day. Yeah, you should be healthy, you're strong, you're fit. It's not the case.
Yeah, you actually train less now, right? Than
I train, yeah. If I can I train today, which is good. Getting ready for another race. But if I can train twice in a week, it's a beautiful week. It's a beautiful week.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know because I'm sure people don't go in with that idea. So
and again,
it's good to express that.
That's also the phase of the business, right? I have friends that have owned their gyms for over 10 years. And they're more established, have a more established member base, right? And they've grown it differently, offering different services, let's say. Some people just doing group, right? We offer group, one-on-one, massage therapy, chiropractic, cryotherapy, so many different things. Each thing is its own thing. So having to go in there and do that, right? It's like you're responsible for all the things. So it's not just, oh, groups are done. No, you have another 4 things. Oh, well, one-on-one's done. Well, you have the other 4 things still, right? Whereas like if you're just focusing on just group training, it makes it a lot simpler because then you have that dead space where there's not classes, right? So you can still get still busy, I imagine, right? But once you grow that, right, now it's like, okay, cool. Maybe now I have more time and more income and more business revenue to go ahead and grow something else. Maybe I can add something else. Maybe now I can add one-on-one sessions or semi-private, right? And I got to bring a trainer on for that and make sure we can make that happen, right? But there's so many different ways to do it. So with that, I would say, yeah, that's the biggest misconception. And it depends on the phase and the level of the business and where they're at.
Got it. Okay, so I have 3 more questions. And then this next one, you kind of touched on it. You said earlier that you knew you wanted to own a business when you were like 4 or 5. And you didn't really know what that looked like until, I'm not sure when actually. But I want to know what gave you the inspiration to actually start first your own, I guess would it be company, Primitive Movement? And then next on, why did you say, now I want to own a gym?
So what gave me the motivation to actually start Primitive Movement?
More like what inspired you to say, I want to start Primitive Movement, and then what inspired you to say, now I want to move Primitive Movement to a gym, like my own gym?
Yeah, I actually had this conversation a few weeks ago. I have it frequently, people obviously ask the question. What inspired me to go the training route? I wanted to go DPT first, doctorate of physical therapy. Right, that was like the initial thing, more the rehab end. Next thing was I wanted to go and do orthopedics, be an orthopedic surgeon. Right, with both those things, you're working with a patient or a client. In this case, with a patient, that's already kind of like you already have the issue. We got to solve X issue, right? Maybe you have a strain, a tear, or whatever the case. Rehab it, right? Hopefully, get back to sport, or get back to activity, or just get back to life. Next thing is orthopedic surgeon. You're seeing me because you need surgery, right? That's where my mind went, is, okay, well, I'm seeing these people when they've already had an issue going on. Hopefully we can fix it. Sometimes we send them to the surgery anyway, and they see us after when it's post-op care, or post-op, and make sure we can get you back. If you're a surgeon, you're sorry, your knee's already gone, we gotta replace it, right? So those are things that just wasn't necessarily okay with. And the insurance paperwork that goes along with that as far as DPT too. So for me, it's, well, how do I impact people before they have an issue? How do I educate people on not having issues, right? So that's where I went, and with the training side is, how do I go ahead and impact, educate, correct things as they're happening, improve quality of life as it's happening to avoid those things to begin with, right? And that's the hardest part, and a lot of times for people to accept, right? As they're not always willing and understanding of where they're at, and accepting of where they're at to where they have to go ahead and you have to make a change. It's actually pretty bad. And I'm doing it on my own. You know, okay, well, if you have any questions, let us know, right? So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a 2-parter too, right?
Well, you talked about why you wanted to start Primitive Movement, but then why did you want to open a gym?
More so for that impact, that community impact. So me and one of my close friends, Jim, we wanted to go ahead and have our own gym together. His name is Jim. We wanted a gym. And so that was always the goal. And we had a tight-knit community that we had already grown, that would bring out their family to events, bring themselves out to events, and we'd have good times with them. And you know, they would come in. It was a nice little wellness group of our members and our clients. So owning a gym just made more sense. We have our own, the way we serve people, our philosophy, right? Our message. You have a physical location, now you can bring more people in. You can impact that many more people. And there were people, they were already bringing their family and everybody around just for events, stuff like that. So now we're impacting all them. And now those friends are impacting more people. So it just made more sense. It's like, if you want, I want outreach, right? Okay. I want legacy. I want, okay, what does this mean to you, right? I want people to care about their health, their sense of self, right? And with that, that just bleeds into the community as a whole. I think one thing which will add to this is we have a large amount of lack of accountability in society right now. People just aren't accountable to various different things, whatever the case may be, right? Health and wellness and fitness allows us that avenue to help somebody take responsibility and take control of their life and be accountable for their actions, right? It's just your health. The only one that's deteriorated their health is you, right? How do we improve that? And then when you have somebody improve that, then it goes out to the masses of the people that they're around. To be able to spread that message has always been the goal to as many people as possible.
Okay, that makes sense. I see now. The next question. How do you navigate the pressure to constantly innovate and adapt in this field?
This is a great question. This is a really good question. Wow. Navigate the pressure. Going back to chaos. When there's not pressure, I'm not comfortable. So that's an easy one. But how to figure out what's next, right? One, passion is a big way to solve that problem. If you don't have the passion, if you don't want to help people, if you don't want to serve, then you're probably not going to look for things, right? You're not going to look for the next thing. You're not going to look for who's doing it better than you. You're not going to look for like what's the next innovative thing that's helping as far as biomechanical movement. What's the next thing as far as nutrition? What's helping, right? You're not going to want to go out there and see what change is happening and what's being adapted and how is it going to help, you know, your business or your member base in this case, right? So the passion helps a lot. Next thing that I've been better at, we just had a Fit Connect meeting. Fit Connects are basically a lot of the local gym owners in the area. We get together and we talk business and we kind of just figure out, okay, how do we improve each other's business? How do we improve each other's member base and our services that we provide and the community as a whole, right? And what that does for us too is we can now trade back and forth just about any piece of information or knowledge or anything that's needed to go and help each other grow. So at this last Fit Connect, we call each other out on the same question. What do you think you're not doing that you should be doing? And it's been a dual part. One, I've just been busy to go out there and do it. But the thing that I do best is go out there and sharpen myself as an individual. Right? If I go out there and meet more individuals and see what they're doing, ask them questions, it fires me up. You have two different types of person, right? One person who kind of shrinks and kind of is almost resentful or bitter when they hear someone else being successful. I'm the opposite. I'll pull my seat up against you and ask, okay, well, how'd you do that? And that's very interesting. I'm like, well, this is what I did. How did you do that? Well, I see why you did that. Well, what if we do this? And then you'll come back a lot of times and you'll change the system based off of the information that you got. And you'll see, this is the system that you showed me, but look at what I'm doing. And they'll be like, what? I didn't even think about that. And now they're taking information from you and vice versa. So that's across the board with anything else, obviously with business, with training, programming, nutrition, biomechanics, rehab, whatever the case may be. You don't know everything. And you don't know how somebody else practices certain things. And when you sit to see those, it's very, very exciting. So I think that's one of the main things, is kind of seeing what else is out there, seeing who's doing it better. But it requires me to get out of this box, out of the gym, to go out there and actually make those connections.
So for you, not so much of pressure, it's just always making sure you're innovating and adapting.
Yeah, like going back to being willing. You got to be willing.
Got it. Okay. I actually have two more questions. Actually, not one. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. How has the role of being a gym owner shifted over the years? And what do you think the future of the fitness business will look like, based on your experience and what you know now? I guess these 4 years.
Well, it should shift because you're bringing on more services for your members. And again, because our team is very, very good now, right? For instance, we have Eric, who is a powerlifter. He has immense, knowledge in powerlifting and kind of building that. He's 1,900 pound total, I believe, right? 716 pound squat for it, insane. And you have Aaron, who's coming in with a CrossFit BJJ background. And you have Ryan also coming in with very nerdy, quirky, but very good at compound lifting and strength and everything as a whole. He's very witty, very smart, very quick, right? You have yourself, that weightlifting background, right? But also getting that kinesiology sense in there, right? And you're kind of dabbling into just about everything right now. You're so curious that it's great to see all those different things, right? And seeing how we adapt. And it keeps me on my toes. It's like, oh, do I have the right answer for her, right? But it also helps me, like, as we're going through it, I'm jogging my memory. I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. I remember this stuff. So we have so many different, Daniel coming from obviously, you know, massage therapy and kind of seeing what he has to have. He's the ART, right? And so, yeah, it's mainly, so the question was again, sorry.
No, it's okay. How has your role as a gym owner shifted over the years?
Yeah, being able to give them, all those individuals, and anybody else that comes to the gym, being able to give them what they need, right? And so my role now becomes more of a facilitator. Not so much like me doing the thing, right? But kind of passing these things on, delegating, facilitating. What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Right? Because I know what I know. I've done it at X level, and I've been decently successful at it on my own, right? But now, how do I build you? And the reason why I want to build you is I want to build these members. Everybody that comes into our gym, right? They're in front of a leader. You guys are leaders, right? Are you the best possible leader you can be for them? They're giving you 50 minutes to an hour of their day every single day. That means something to us, right? Can you be the best possible version of yourselves for that 50 minutes, for that 55 minutes, whatever the case may be, right? So my role becomes, how do I set that up?
Okay, and that next part was, what do you think the future of the fitness business will be? Or like, where is it leading to? Or what are your hopes?
My hopes? As far as my hopes, let's start with that, right? Fitness is adapting a lot right now. I think because people are asking the right questions now. People are getting into the realization that if you have an injury or a pain or an ache or an issue, we now have practitioners who did the thing themselves that are asking the questions. Meaning, if I go to a doctor and they say you can't train because your knee hurts, and you came over here and you said my knee hurts, and I'm telling you to not do the thing and then it'll go away, that's not an answer. It's not appropriate.
Oh, okay.
We're not accepting that anymore.
Oh, okay.
We're not saying I'm not going to stop running, I'm not going to stop lifting. What do you mean? How do I still do what I'm doing without having the pain? How do I solve it? So now we have practitioners in the field that are asking the question, because I was that athlete. I was that individual that was told I couldn't do it. So now I got my DPT, I got my chiro now, I'm a trainer now, whatever the case, right? I'm a surgeon now, whatever the case. And now you're giving them solutions to things like, we actually have this that you can do, right? So I think that's pretty cool. The next thing, as far as what I would hope that people take more accountability. I would hope that people, stop with being okay with their lack, and their self and their sense of self, right? All those different things. So with that, it only adds obviously to their own well-being, their quality of life. And one thing I've always said, we have different topics of the week, as you know, and one of the topics of the week, I remember something got brought up, and I remember mentioning, I said, I am not okay with kids being offered medications as early as 12 years old and younger to go ahead and work on their obesity, obesity and being overweight. Or kids above 12 years old being offered some kind of bariatric surgery or weight loss surgery at 13 plus years old. I'm not okay with that. And people being okay with that, I think there's a big issue, there's a big problem in what's going on as far as the lack of accountability and how we have to go ahead and improve our health and our sense of self. So that's what I would hope to see changed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does make sense. That was actually my last question was, where do you think the fitness industry is living up to?
I think if you can motivate those individuals, I think if you can learn how to educate them and drive that home right with media and with marketing, what you have to see across the board is it has to be educational, it has to be valuable, but it has to be entertaining. So if you can do those two things together and you can drive the point home into that individual that's going to go ahead and make sure they have to see those changes, I think you can be very, very successful. I think also the people that obviously are in that group are going to be benefiting vastly from it.
And yeah, I don't
Cool.
know, that's it. That's all I have.
Guys, thank you for sitting down here with us. Again, this is episode 1 of the Primitive Movement Pod. With that being said, make sure to look at this damn value, get in the damn gym, and get these damn gains.